We get to watch Duke basketball this upcoming weekend with Countdown to Craziness. Such a great feeling. Basketball questions coming your way on Mailbag Monday today.
Hi, everybody. Dick Vitale. Hey, make sure you listen, man, to Locked On Blue Devils with J.J. Jackson. He's awesome, baby.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson. It's so great to have you here with us today on this Monday, September 29th, 2025. Locked On Blue Devils is your one-stop shop where we discuss everything going on inside the life of Duke athletics. And on today's show, we've got a Mailbag Monday for you as we get set for Duke basketball to return into our lives on Friday night. We will have Countdown to Craziness. Practice continues to move forward for this Duke basketball team. So we'll dive into some of the top questions we got from you guys, the everydayers, the listeners here of Locked On Blue Devils, as we are nearing the end of September. October is here. We know once we get into October, November, we're full go into Duke basketball season, and it's the best time of the year. That's for sure. Follow us wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Be sure to leave us a 5-star rating and written review, particularly if you are listening on the Apple Podcast platform. Also, as always, subscribe to our podcast feed and subscribe to our YouTube channel on YouTube. Not only does YouTube have the podcasting feature, we're also a video that you can watch, a show you can consume each and every day. So hello, a special shout out to all of our viewers on YouTube each and every day. Shout out to those everydayers. Comment down below. Let us know you're an everydayer so I can give you a shout out in future videos. Like this video, share it with your friends, all those things. Follow us on X at LO_Blue Devils. You can follow me there as well at _JJ_Jackson_. Also, make sure that you follow us on Instagram and TikTok. We're located over there. Okay, as we get set for Mailbag Monday today and a little bit later in the show, we'll talk about Duke football's very exciting win over Syracuse this past weekend by a final score of 38-3. We want to let you know that any future questions that you have for a Mailbag Monday, you can send it to us, lockdownbluedevils@gmail.com via email, or you can also send us a DM on X, again, at LO_Blue Devils, or comment on these YouTube videos, questions that you have, and I'll be sure to answer them in upcoming videos. So let's get right into it. So our first question to take a look at here on this Mailbag Monday comes to us from our guy, Captain Hoops, who sent us an email. Again, lockdownbluedevils@gmail.com. Captain Hoops, appreciate the question. Wrote in and asked, what is your favorite thing about Countdown to Craziness? I have answered this in past years, but let's go at it here again in 2025. Really do love the excitement around this team, being able to see the way in which they're introduced, right? Is it your standard running out onto the court from the corner tunnels that Duke's got there at Cameron Indoor? I can think of other years where there were ramps that guys were walking up to get to midcourt, or kind of the various features and ideas that they present the team is always exciting because the creative staff and team around Duke basketball and Duke athletics is really good at their job. So I'm excited to see how all of that comes together. And then the individual player introductions in the fact of what song do they choose. I know we've already seen some of those vlog videos that Duke Blue Planet has released from the freshman class, where they're already talking a little bit about what should my video intro be or song intro be. And so I know they put a lot of pressure into making a good selection with that song choice. It's fun to kind of vibe with the guys while you're watching them be introduced ahead of the upcoming basketball season. The ball itself that is played, right? The scrimmage, blue versus white, how they divvy up teams kind of varies year to year. It's not the best. Yeah, you're getting a chance to watch these Duke players in action, and we're for sure going to talk about all of it next week after we get a chance to watch it on Friday night. But again, it's just a blue and white scrimmage. Really, how much can you take away from all those things? It is interesting, the angle where some years, it was Christian Reeves who would put together really impressive Countdown to Craziness performances, but you can't let yourself go as far to believe he's going to make a big-time impact on the squad during the regular season. So just that kind of dynamic is what I'm always interested to see, how Countdown to Craziness plays out. But in terms of just my favorite thing, to answer Captain Hoop's question, Captain Hoop's awesome moniker, by the way, there, is just the player introductions and getting a chance to kind of get a better feel for these guys' personalities and that sort of thing. So thanks so much for that one. Next question comes in from Grant. Grant sent us a DM on Twitter. What do you think of Duke's exhibition schedule and of teams in general scheduling better games in exhibition season? Awesome. Love it. Let's get into it. So Duke's got a couple of exhibition games this year where they will take on the likes of UCF and then another game against Tennessee at home versus UCF and then a matchup against Tennessee. Really like those matchups for Duke. I think it's going to be a good kind of measuring stick as to where you're at ahead of the upcoming season. Playing in Knoxville at Tennessee is going to be a tough test for Duke, but at the end of the day, it's an exhibition. Wins and losses don't matter and whatnot there. Johnny Dawkins being the head coach at UCF and the brotherhood ties that he has, being a former player, his 24 jersey hanging from the rafters inside Cameron Indoor, that's going to be really special for him to come back into the building and coach an opposing team on that floor. We look back to that meeting that Duke had in the round of 32 of the 2019 NCAA tournament when Johnny Dawkins was at UCF as the head coach, going up against Zion Williamson, RJ Barrett and company, and Coach K when he was still the head coach. That was the last time UCF made the NCAA tournament. So it's been a pretty rough go of it in recent years for Johnny Dawkins, but shout out to UCF. They're remaining committed to him as the head coach. He did have several departures into the transfer portal after this past basketball season. Let's be honest, everybody did. But in terms of what their roster looks like, it's not going to be the greatest of competitions for Duke. Based on talent alone, Duke should be able to beat UCF comfortably. I like the matchup, though, getting an opportunity to play them at home. Same goes for Tennessee, although Tennessee has been on a much better run as a basketball program of late. We got to go back just a few seasons to recall the Tennessee Vols beating Duke in the NCAA tournament there in the round of 32. In John Shire's first season as Duke's head coach, we know that John Shire has gotten better year by year in terms of end result there. First season getting bounced in the round of 32. Then the next season he was bounced in the Elite Eight, and most recently Duke losing in the Final Four to Houston. Tennessee, a program under Rick Barnes, who has been to back-to-back Elite Eight appearances. They've got Nate Ament on their roster. Duke was in the recruiting battle pretty heavy with Nate Ament, so that'll be a fun matchup to watch there. And interestingly enough, Tennessee still has never made the Final Four. They've had a lot of deep NCAA tournament runs to the Elite Eight with Rick Barnes. Same went with Bruce Pearl when he was the head coach there in Knoxville on Rocky Top, but that's a program still waiting to go to their first Final Four. I love these matchups for college basketball fans to watch early on in the year. Again, the results don't matter in terms of wins and losses. It gives you a little bit of an idea, though, on where your team is positioned as the season begins. And as we look at Duke basketball, of course, we're wanting to see Duke in a really good spot ahead of the upcoming season. So hopefully Duke's playing good basketball when that Tennessee game comes around, as opposed to these exhibition games that we're used to seeing for Duke and other big programs over the years where you're playing Division II, Division III schools to get yourself ready for the upcoming year. I think this will be a little bit more significant and meaningful. And I also like it from the standpoint of, we've talked about Duke's very first regular season game being Texas and the oddities of that, right? That it's not a lesser known Division I program. You're jumping right in the gates, power conference opponent, Texas Longhorns out of the SEC. You feel a little more tuned up to that when you've already played exhibition games against a Big 12 squad in UCF and another SEC team in Tennessee. So, Grant, really appreciate that question. That's kind of my overall feelings about this game for Duke ahead of the upcoming season and my thoughts there on the exhibition schedule. More of your questions in this Mailbag Monday when we return here in a moment. Locked On Blue Devils here today, brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love FanDuel so much from all the various ways that they let you get involved, whether that be building parlays, player props, or following the live lines during the game and being able to jump in and out of the action. Just makes watching football even more exciting. We've got a pair of Monday Night Football games that we get to enjoy tonight when you look at the Miami Dolphins taking on the New York Jets, and then another one between the Denver Broncos and the Cincinnati Bengals. Tons of great ways to get involved with FanDuel. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. FanDuel is a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Welcome back in. It's Mailbag Monday here today on the show. JJ Jackson talking about Duke basketball and answering your questions. Again, a little later in the program, we'll recap the win for Duke football over Syracuse this past weekend. Blue Devils won by 5 touchdowns, convincingly, I should say. We're taking your questions. Send us emails, lockedonbluedevils@gmail.com, or you can send me a Twitter message at LO_Blue Devils, or my personal account at _JJ_Jackson_. Still have a problem of always saying Twitter instead of X. My brain hasn't completely reconfigured that. All right, next one is here from Matt, who wrote in, what is this Duke basketball team best at, in your opinion? That's a really good question. You know, early on, I want to say that this Duke basketball team is best at kind of their defensive identity, the intensity that they're going to be able to play with, just given the size and length of this squad here today. That's kind of the one thing that I would like to point to for the Duke basketball team. Everybody on scholarship, 6'5" or greater. We've talked about that ad nauseum. But again, it's just such a great point as to what John Shire has been recruiting. You look at the front court with guys like Patrick Gongba II and Malik Brown, who are established within this program. Cameron Boozer factors in to the middle as well. I think they're going to be able to use that size and strength to impact the game on the glass, giving Duke the opportunity to shut down possessions on the defensive end of the floor, possibly even create a second position or two. So just from a pure size standpoint here, I really like where Duke's at. And then defensively, I think, like I'm saying, that's where it's going to be really impressive to see Duke right out of the gates. Offensively, I wouldn't be surprised if there are a couple of hiccups early, as we've seen over the last few years with Duke basketball. When you experience so much roster turnover and your sheer dominant players, you got to take a little bit to figure out where the shots are going to go, who are the primary creators, what do these lineups look like, who's going to be the great shooters versus not so great. And typically for Duke, you know, we're always loaded with great three-point shooting and whatnot, but getting those good looks is going to be important. So to sit here and answer Matt's question today, what is this Duke team best at, in your opinion? Having, again, not seen anything at all, really, until we get to see Countdown to Craziness this Friday and then those exhibition games, I think Duke's just going to be able to get after you defensively. John Shire, you know he's going to coach that. He's already talked about that through this first week of practice. What they are emphasizing the most right now is defense. I think that we're absolutely going to see that right out of the gates of the Duke basketball team. So really do appreciate that one. Last question here that I want to dive into here on this mailbag for Locked On Blue Devils. A question comes in from Devil in a Blue Dress asking, how will Cameron Boozer's game be similar and different to Cooper Flagg's? Really like this back-to-back top recruits of the recruiting classes for Duke. We know Cooper Flagg led this basketball team this past year all the way to the Final Four, won an ACC regular season championship. Duke wins the ACC tournament and then on their way to the Final Four. Cooper Flagg led them in all 5 statistical categories. I don't know that we'll project that right out of the gates for Cameron Boozer. I do think, though, we'll see a lot of the versatility that we saw in both of those players. That would be one comparison. Versatility in that they'll both have the ball in their hands a whole lot, able to create and set up for others, shoot it from the outside a little bit, although right now I think you would figure Cooper Flagg's a little bit more polished on that three-point shot than Cameron Boozer was even going into the year. But we saw what Cooper did last year. I mean, throughout the entire season, he improved so much from that three-point line. I think Cameron Boozer is made of the same makeup and work ethic and just drive to be a great basketball player. I think he's going to put tons of hours into the gym to improve that three-point shot. Rebounding the basketball, Cooper was athletic, led Duke in rebounding last season. I think, though, Cameron Boozer is going to have a big impact on that as well. You look at the interior for this Duke team, there's not Kaman Malawach there on the inside. Now, Pat Gongba and Malik Brown are big fellas as well who are going to grab boards, and I think other guys from the guard and forward spot will add into the rebounding mix. But I think Cameron Boozer right out of the gates is going to be able to rebound the basketball really efficiently and effectively. I know when people are making the comparisons of his game, Paulo Banchero was something that comes up a good bit. I look at Paulo now with the Orlando Magic and how much he's got the ball in his hands, how much he's putting it on the floor, how much he's creating, and comparing that to what we recall from Duke in his season there in Coach K's final year where Duke makes the run all the way to the Final Four. Paulo wasn't doing as much of that with the basketball. Duke still had a roster that was made up of Jeremy Roach and Trevor Keels and Wendell Moore Jr. and A.J. Griffin and all these guys that were kind of playing away from the basket with the ball in their hands, creating it up, and in the low post, making it easy for Paulo to go get his buckets. We saw the shots from the outside and whatnot, but you get what I'm saying. As they get further into their NBA career, they get to do more and more on the basketball court. So I think that's kind of the trajectory that Cameron Boozer will be on this season, as opposed to what we saw from Cooper Flagg, who basically, he gets the ball, he does what he wants. He was that type of player and that type of a big impact on the Duke basketball team. Like, such a fun player to watch last season. And I think we're going to be saying the exact same things about Cameron Boozer. I think another big difference is just kind of their build, like we're talking about. I think there's a little bit more just pure strength from Cameron Boozer coming in to his freshman season than there was from Cooper Flagg. I think he's going to continue to attack things in the weight room and be a big-time interior presence for the Duke basketball squad ahead of the upcoming season. So really do appreciate that question from Devil in a Blue Dress, who sent us a DM with that one. And again, any of these mailbag questions that you would like added for future shows, all you got to do is send us a DM on X, or go ahead and send us an email, lockdownbluedevils@gmail.com, or you can go ahead and listen in the comments down below on YouTube, ask your questions there, and I'll be sure to add them in for future episodes. When we come here in just a moment, I got to talk about this big win for Duke football. 38-3, the final score for the Blue Devils over Syracuse. Really big win for Duke. Now they get ready to head to Cal before Duke has a big bye week coming up, a chance to rest, and a couple of big games ahead on the schedule. It's coming your way here on Locked On Blue Devils. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends at Quo. One of the tools that helps make a huge difference for business owners is Quo. This is formerly OpenPhone. It's the same great business phone system you've heard me talk about before, but now with a new company name. And here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. With every customer, conversation counts. You need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customer communications. It works right through an app on your phone or computer, so no more carrying two phones or relying on a landline. I love how much Quo lets your team share one number and collaborate on calls and texts like a shared inbox, so no customers get left hanging. I've got personal experience with this product from previous jobs, and I'm telling you, it really helped me and my team stay on the same page with who it was that we were talking to in the job recruiting process. See why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly OpenPhone. Get started for free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedoncollege. That's QUO.com/lockedoncollege. And if you've got existing numbers with another service, Quo will port them over at no extra charge. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers, a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Our show today is also brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Caffeine just got a flavor upgrade. 5 Hour Energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 2-ounce shot pack with caffeine packs caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee, plus B vitamins and nutrients with 0 sugar and 0 crashes. What I love most is how portable they are. Big taste, tiny shot. You could take it anywhere and get that boost when you need it. All the flavors are absolutely amazing. As I go throughout a long day, when I need a little bit more energy, I always reach for my favorite flavor. I love the grape because it's refreshing and gives me that quick lift before a busy day. Enough with boring, flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5 Hour Energy shots. Get the favorites you love or be bold and try something new in-store and online at www.5hourenergy.com or on Amazon today. 5 Hour Energy is a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Duke football wins 38-3 this past weekend over Syracuse, a resounding victory as Duke finished a 5-touchdown winner over the Orange there at the JMA Wireless Dome in Syracuse, New York. It is another ACC win for Duke after defeating NC State last week, 45-33. This past weekend, Duke picks up the big win over Syracuse. And once again, a really efficient game for Darien Mensah, taking care of the football and limiting turnovers. Darien Mensah finished Saturday's game 22 of 28 passing, really efficient there for 268 yards and 2 touchdowns, no interceptions thrown. Again, really impressive day for him. His top target was Cooper Flagg, who had another massive game, 4 catches for 72 yards and 2 touchdowns. So both touchdown passes that Mensah threw were to Harvard transfer Cooper Flagg. But the biggest story for Duke offensively was the breakout game for Nate Sheppard. This guy was running wild for the Blue Devils. 15 carries, 168 yards, 2 scores. He had a touchdown run of 49 yards. That was his longest run of the game. But over those 15 carries, he averaged 11.2 yards per carry. In the passing game, Nate Sheppard finished with 5 catches as well for 33 yards. So this guy, you got the ball in his hands, and he was making things happen. Nearly 200 yards, or just over, 200 all-purpose yards on the day for Nate Sheppard. That's just really good. And I was concerned through the first few weeks that Duke wasn't going to be able to run the ball as well. And if you get more performances like this from Nate Sheppard, the 1-2 punch that Duke's been able to show so far this season with him and Anderson Castle, I think Duke is going to be in a really, really big spot. It's crazy that these are the 2 running backs we're talking about at this point of the season for the Blue Devils. Because remember, going into the year, it's Jaquez Moore. He's been in the program. He was the guy last year. And Peyton Jones right behind him. And then, they get Anderson Castle, who transfers in from App State. Again, he had 3 touchdowns for Duke last week against NC State. And Anderson Castle did have a touchdown this Saturday for the Blue Devils against Syracuse. And there's this freshman, Nate Sheppard, that we need to talk about. Throughout the course of the season, already through 5 weeks, here we are shifting from Moore and Jones in the backfield to talking about Sheppard and Castle. Whatever works for Duke, that I'm all for, and I think this offensive staff is as well. It's a less pressure on Darien Mensah, although he has lived up to the hype regardless of pressure there. But it makes his job a whole lot easier instead of having to be so elite passing the football and having that such a big part of your offense. You can rely on a little bit of a running game as well, and it's been really cool for Duke to be able to do that. Hopefully, and I think it's not the case, I hope that this is a sign of things to come in terms of running. I know the case that I don't want is that, this was just the outlier. This was a one-hit, one-off for Nate Sheppard and whatnot. But we've seen it over the last few weeks, just kind of the spark and the big play, the twitchiness that he's got with the ball in his hands, that's why I don't think it's a fluke. I do think that this is something. This is a Syracuse team who, yes, made the quarterback change. Not denying that. Went on the road with another quarterback against Clemson before Ricky Collins came in, replacing the injured Steve Angeli, and won. They beat Clemson in Death Valley. Here at home, they got a field goal on their second drive of the game, and then the Duke defense stood tall. So saying that, I don't think you could just say, it was Syracuse. Of course, you would expect good things like that. I don't think that's a fair argument to make against this Duke team. I think you've got to get them praise for what they did offensively and defensively against the Orange. It's really hard to allow just 3 points in a college football game, particularly in one against a conference opponent, particularly in one against a conference opponent who just beat a perennial power like the Clemson Tigers. Really impressive stuff. Ricky Collins for Syracuse finished 24 of 37 passing the ball, 229 yards, no touchdowns. Did have an interception on the very first drive of the game. Did not do much running the football as well. 5 carries, -8 yards rushing there for Ricky Collins. The Duke defense did a really nice job at making it difficult on him. I love the fight that this Duke team had. It was very clear at the end of the fourth quarter, really throughout that fourth quarter, that Duke had started to put in guys further down the depth chart to get them an opportunity to play and some reps that you hope prove pivotal down the stretch and throughout their careers. Duke didn't want to allow a touchdown. And in that fourth quarter, at the very end, less than a minute to go, you get Syracuse with 1st and goal from inside the 5, and they don't score. Duke didn't allow them to get into the end zone. I loved that. I love the fight from this Duke team. Seems as though Manny Diaz, and rightfully so, was really proud of the effort that he saw out of the squad, and this is just something that Duke's going to be able to build on as they get set for their next ACC game, where Duke will go on the road to Cal. A really late one coming up on Saturday, 10:30 p.m. Eastern kickoff on ESPN. It's the 3-2 Duke Blue Devils against the 4-1 Cal Golden Bears. Our friends at FanDuel right now have Duke favored by 3.5 points in this one, but Cal's been playing really impressively over the last couple of weeks with their quarterback. But again, Duke right now, pretty good odds in this one early, and hopefully the West Coast travel doesn't throw them off too much. Hopefully they've still got the spark and the boost and the juice to get active and ready to go against Cal, because after that game, Duke's got the bye week. Before the following week, they have a home game on Saturday, October 18th against Georgia Tech. That's going to be a tough test. Right now, Georgia Tech, undefeated. They're number 17 in the country with a 5-0 record. So best of luck to Duke this upcoming week against Cal. We're going to have more conversations with our usual friends throughout the week here, talking about the win for Duke football over Syracuse, how impressive it was. I'll be joining the ACC squad as I do each and every week, talking about the win for the Blue Devils and other things from around the conference. So check that out right here in the feeds. As always, make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, like this video, share it with your friends, comment down below any questions that you've got for future Mailbag Monday episodes here on the program, and then subscribe to us wherever it is that you get your podcast. Leave us a 5-star rating and written review. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you tomorrow. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.